Inside a battery factory, there is almost no sound you would expect. No hammering, no welding sparks, no workers shouting across a floor. What you get instead is this constant low hum of machines moving in precise loops and the faint chemical smell of electrode slurry being coated onto metal foil thinner than a human hair. It looks nothing like manufacturing. It looks more like a hospital crossed with a semiconductor fab. And understanding what happens inside that building is the entire story of why batteries collapsed in price. Let's go back to the beginning of the process because that's where everything starts. A lithium-ion battery is, at its core, a sandwich. You have a positive electrode called the cathode, a negative electrode called the anode, a separator between them so they don't touch and short circuit, and an electrolyte liquid that lets ions travel back and forth between the two sides. When you charge a battery, lithium ions move from the cathode to the anode and park themselves there. When you discharge it, they move back, and that movement is what generates electricity. The chemistry sounds simple. Making it manufacturable at scale is where decades of hard work live. The cathode is where most of the cost historically sat. Early cathode materials were built around lithium cobalt oxide. Cobalt gave the battery high energy density, meaning you could pack a lot of power into a small space, which was exactly what a laptop or a phone needed. But cobalt is expensive, it's difficult to source reliably, and it puts a hard cost floor on the entire cell. So researchers spent years methodically swapping cobalt out. They tried nickel, they tried manganese, they tried iron and phosphate. Each swap changed the performance profile of the battery slightly, but the cost implications were enormous. Lithium iron phosphate, the chemistry that now dominates large-scale production, contains none of the expensive transition metals that made early batteries so costly. The raw materials are abundant, the chemistry is stable, and the cells last for thousands more charge cycles than cobalt-based predecessors. That single chemistry shift knocked a significant percentage off the cost of every battery that adopted it. But chemistry alone didn't do this. Manufacturing is the bigger part of the story. The electrode coating process is where the production magic really happens. You take your cathode or anode material, grind it into a fine powder, mix it with a binder and a solvent to create a thick slurry, and then coat that slurry onto a roll of aluminum or copper foil using something that looks like an industrial printing press. The foil runs through at speed, the slurry gets laid down in an even layer, and then it passes through a long drying oven that evaporates the solvent and leaves behind a solid electrode coating. Early versions of this process were slow, used enormous amounts of energy to heat the drying ovens, and produced a lot of waste because controlling the coating thickness uniformly was genuinely difficult. Over years of iteration, manufacturers got the line speeds up, got the coating uniformity tighter, reduced the oven temperatures, and cut the solvent usage down dramatically. Some facilities are now moving toward dry electrode coating, which eliminates the solvent and the drying oven entirely. The electrode material gets pressed directly onto the foil using heat and compression alone. Less energy, less waste, faster throughput, lower cost per cell. After coating comes calendaring, which is just a fancy word for pressing. The coated foil gets run through heavy rollers that compress the electrode material to a precise density. This step matters because how tightly packed the electrode is directly affects how much energy the final cell can store. Getting this right consistently, across millions of meters of foil, required building custom machinery and writing control software that didn't exist before battery manufacturing demanded it. Then the coated foil gets slit into strips of the correct width and wound or stacked into the cell format. Cylindrical cells get wound into tight rolls. Prismatic cells get stacked in flat layers. Pouch cells get assembled in flexible packaging. Each format has its own set of machines, and those machines have been refined continuously. The winding machines that exist today operate at speeds and tolerances that would have seemed unrealistic 15 years ago. Automation replaced human hands at step after step, not because labor is unimportant, but because human hands simply cannot maintain the consistency that a modern battery cell requires across millions of units per day. Cell assembly happens in dry rooms. This is one of the least visible but most important parts of the whole process. Lithium is extremely sensitive to moisture. Any water vapor present during assembly reacts with the electrolyte and degrades the cell before it ever gets used. Dry rooms maintain humidity levels so low that the air inside is drier than the driest desert on Earth. Building and running dry rooms at scale is expensive, and getting the equipment costs down required the same kind of volume-driven learning curve that affected every other part of the process. After assembly, every cell gets filled with electrolyte, sealed, and then goes through formation. Formation is the first charge and discharge cycle, and it's where the battery essentially wakes up. A protective layer called the solid electrolyte interface forms on the anode surface during this step, and that layer is critical to how long the battery will last and how safely it will operate. Formation used to take days per batch. Factories have cut that time dramatically through better understanding of the electrochemistry and by designing formation equipment that recaptures the energy discharge during the process and feeds it back into the grid instead of wasting it as heat. Every cell that comes off the line gets tested. Capacity, internal resistance, self-discharge rate, voltage. Cells that fall outside tolerance get pulled. The data from every cell feeds back into the process to catch drift before it becomes waste. This feedback loop, running continuously across millions of cells per day, is itself one of the most powerful cost reduction tools in the factory. You find problems faster, fix them faster, and produce less scrap. All of this together is why the price fell. Not one breakthrough. 1,000 small ones compounding on top of each other, driven by volume that made every incremental improvement worth investing in because the market for the output kept growing. So what happens next? The same process continues, but the levers are different now. The easy chemistry wins are mostly captured. The low-hanging manufacturing improvements have been picked. What's left is harder and more interesting. Solid-state batteries replace the liquid electrolyte with a solid material, which promises higher energy density and better safety, but requires entirely new manufacturing processes that nobody has yet cracked at gigascale. Sodium-ion batteries swap lithium for sodium, which is almost absurdly abundant and cheap, at the cost of somewhat lower energy density that may not matter for stationary storage where weight is irrelevant. Silicon anodes pack more lithium ions per gram than the graphite anodes used today, which would meaningfully increase cell energy density, but silicon expands and contracts during charging in ways that crack the electrode over time. And solving that durability problem without adding cost is where a significant portion of battery research currently lives. The factories being built right now are larger than anything that existed 5 years ago. The machinery inside them is faster and more automated. The chemistries being qualified are cheaper on raw materials. The engineers running the lines have more data and better tools than any previous generation. The learning curve that drove a 90% cost reduction over 15 years has not flattened. It has slowed slightly, but the direction has not changed. Cheaper storage changes what is possible. It changes how grids are designed, how vehicles are powered, how remote communities access electricity, how industries that run on fuel imagine their own futures. The battery factory floor, with its hum and its dry rooms and its miles of coated foil, is one of the places where that change is being manufactured, one cell at a time.